Hi guys, Darren from Venom Fluid Art here. Today I thought I'd share with you an alternative to the Torbman's Easy Coat door and trim that we use in Australia for our pouring medium. Now this is part of ShanB recipe. So we have Torbman's Easy Coat, interior door and trim, which is a gloss and it's a neutral base. That is what we use as a pouring medium. So if you've seen any of my other videos, it shows mixing of that and other bits and pieces. For those that haven't seen it, what I'm going to do is grab this and show you just how thick this stuff is. So it is quite thick. So usually when we're mixing this stuff, I'll just scoop some out. I'm only going to make a small batch of this. So I'll take that out, put it into a container. So I'll do, say, 2 scoops of this, which is about 40 ml. Scoop that out. Okay, I'll move this one out of the way. Pop the lid back on. Now, this door and trim, they're taken off the shelves at the moment in our usual Bunnings stores where we buy it. So they're doing a reformulation on the goo that goes in it, and they'll be all relabeled. So who knows whether we can still use it as a pouring medium. Now with this stuff, if you just dab it between your fingers, give it a rub, like this, it turns clear. Okay, so you rub that between your fingers, and it goes clear. That's what makes it perfect for a pouring medium. Okay, now what we usually do to get consistency for this is add some Jo Sonja gloss varnish. Give it a squirt. Help if my container wasn't totally empty. Grab another one. Usually put a squirt of that in. Stir that in. And that ain't a bad consistency for it. So your Jo Sonja is to thin that down because it's quite thick and goopy. Okay, so that there's perfect for a bloom, swipe, etc, etc. Now, because they're doing their little modifications on this stuff, and we don't know whether it's still going to work, it always pays to have a backup. So, I have another product, which I will put here. Scoop some out into another container. So pop the lid off that. Now this one here, dip your finger in, rub it. Still turns crystal clear. So it's perfect for a pouring medium. The consistency is actually a little bit thinner than the door and trim. So you won't need as much Jo Sonja. So if we scoop some of that out, like so, measure it up against the other one. Yeah, pretty much roughly the same. So the consistency so far of this one is still quite thick. This one here is notably thinner, even though we've added Joe Sonia to this one. This one will probably need a bit more Joe Sonia mixed in, but it'll still work fine. So that one there, we can still add a little bit of Joe Sonia, or even better, if you're mixing it with pigments, you're better off to grab some pigment, grab some Joe Sonia, add a little bit in the bottom. We will grab a, oops, took out the camera. Nice job, Daz. Put some pigments in. Now I've got my head well away from that. I should have a mask on, but you won't be able to hear what I'm saying. So I'm just going to fold that in. Make sure all the pigment's dispersed in the Joe Sonia that we've put in there. Like so. Make sure you scrape the sides, scrape the bottom. Make sure it's all wet in really nice. Alright. Now, what we'll do is grab some of the new pouring medium. What I usually do is add a scoop at a time and mix it. That way it doesn't mute your colours rather than dumping the whole lot in. Which will mute them. Okay, so you mix one little scoop in at a time. Another scoop. Now this one here, we've added no Joe Sonia to the actual pouring medium. We've only used it to disperse the pigments. So by using this one, you're actually going to use a whole heap less Joe Sonia, which over here is like 20 bucks for a little bottle. Okay. Put some more in. Mix that up. See, the colour still stays the same. Naturally, I'm stirring this pretty quick because we're on a bit of a time limit here. Don't want to make the video too long for you all. But that there is pretty much, as we sit, a perfect consistency for a bloom or a swipe. So it's just straight out of the tin. Disperse your pigments with a bit of Joe Sonia, and your consistency is almost perfect. I'd pretty much go with that for a bloom or a swipe straight away, no problem at all. As it sits, it'll thicken up just a tiny little bit, like all paints do when you mix them. But that there is good to go. If we do that with our door and trim, that's already got Joe Sonia in, we'll do exactly the same thing. Grab another stick. Grab some Joe Sonia. So just a couple of squirts to fill the bottom. Pigment goes in. Could use this stick to mix it. Mix that in slow. It stops you getting dust into the air. Pigment dust isn't good for you, so just be careful with it. Like I said, my head's a mile away from this, so closer to the microphone than what I am the camera. Alright, so we mix that in. Alright. Grab the Joe Sonia and Door and Trim mix, which, as you can see, is still quite thick. So we'll add a scoop of that. Give it a mix. Give it another scoop. Give it a mix. Another scoop. Okay. So that there is pretty much just about perfect. It's still a little bit thick, but ideal. This is the other pourer medium. Still leaves a couple of seconds trace, but that one doesn't have as much Joe Sonia in as this one does. So remember, we mix that with it. Then we've dispersed the Joe Sonia with it, with the pigments. So they're pretty much the same consistency as they sit now. Both exactly the same colour. Both dry perfectly clear. The only difference is you've used a hell of a lot less Joe Sonia. Now, if you're mixing up a whole heap of colours like I do, the cost of your Joe Sonia adds up really quick. So, being able to use less is better. You get exactly the same results as using the Door and Trim, but it's going to cost you less because you've used less Joe Sonia. Now, what is the product, you ask? It's actually still a Torbman's product, but it's Torbman's Sunproof. Okay, so it's the UV protected one. It's an exterior, 25-year guarantee. It's still a gloss. It's water-based, and it's a neutral. Okay. The only difference is it's exterior and has better UV qualities than the usual interior Door and Trim Torbmans that we usually use. So if you're freaking out about not being able to get your hands on the Door and Trim at the moment, don't stress, because this stuff is all over the shelves in Bunnings. Most hardware stores stock it. And it is actually going to save you money in the long run because you don't use as much Joe. Now, I actually have a piece somewhere I painted the other day, so I'll grab that. Where did I put it? Actually, Bubbles painted this one because I was making up the colours and getting her to test them for me. So that one there is one that was painted a couple of days ago. All the colours are still exactly the way they were wet. And all dried perfect. No cracks, no crazing. And didn't mute any of the colours. So that stuff there works perfectly fine. So that's the can you need to look for in your stores. Just make sure exterior, it's a gloss, water-based, and neutral. Even though the stick is pink, it's actually clear when you rub it between your fingers. So that's what you need to look for. And yeah, holds up to UV really, really well. And best of all, 25-year guarantee. Woohoo! Winning! So hopefully that's some sort of help for you guys in Australia. Australia that is looking for the Torbman's door and trim and can't get it anywhere because it's no longer on the shelves. Here is the perfect alternative. And it still works perfect. And works out cheaper in the long run. So there you go. Hopefully this video was informative. If it was, click like, share and subscribe. Ring the notification bell. That way you get to see all my videos as I release them. And that's it for today, guys. Nice, quick, easy one. Alright. You guys have fun. Take care. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.